Okay, so there is quite a bit to do today, not from my end, but from your end. This basic example is here, it's already laid out. What I want you to do is to take this thing. See, over here we got the feature to add a new student. We can see the list of all the students. Perhaps we can update them. That's not here yet. And we can see a tabular view as well. That's for the student view. I want you guys to do a similar view for the courses, as if we can create new courses and we can see a list of courses. Okay. Each course will have a course code and then course title and credit hours. So you have a similar form for that. You can put it in the next tab, and then we will have another tab for registration. The idea is that the students, they are going to register for courses. We talked about this thing. We actually drew year diagram to start with. We had a student entity, we had a course entity, and we had a relationship, the diamond relationship. Students, they register for courses, and then we said that this thing can be mapped into a schema diagram where there will be a registration table. Do you guys remember that, or you lost everything already? Just to remind you, I drew these things using Dia. So this is the schema diagram that I'm trying to draw here. So basically over here we had a student table where we had attributes like, if you want to represent this one, we got student ID, which is of type varchar 13, because there will be 13 characters, and that's going to be the primary key. We got name, right, which is varchar 60, and well, let me call this ID then, just to be consistent. Okay, so let's say we have the student table which we have already created. We have hooked it up with this database, not the database, with this form, and it's working, right? I want you guys to take this one, the base code from here, and add features to this thing. What sort of features? Well, you have to support courses as well. So there will be a course table which has course code. A course code can be 8 characters long, and that's going to be the primary key. We can have title that's going to be, say, varchar 100 or any such thing, and credit hours or credits in short, that's going to be double. The title cannot be null, and this is definitely not null, so yeah. Okay. So what happens now is that these students, they're going to register for courses, and if you were looking at an ER diagram, this is not a ER diagram, this is the schema diagram. In ER diagram we have relationship, the diamond shape. Now we won't have that, we would have table instead. This is going to be the registration table, and the attributes are going to be student ID, which is of varchar 13, and also course code, that's going to be varchar 8. And what happens over here is that for one student you can have many registration records. For one student there can be many registration records, and that's how you read that. Okay, and for one course there can also be many registration records, because many different students can register for the same course. And I mentioned this thing in our one of our previous classes that this thing over here, the underlying thing, this is called the primary key because it uniquely identifies each student. And over here, the course code is also the primary key because with the course code, you can uniquely identify any course. What happens up here in the registration record, since they're coming from foreign places, this ID doesn't belong to the registration, it belongs to the student. That's why this ID, this primary key, is called the foreign key over here, because this is a foreigner here. Okay, I talked about that. So the same thing, the course code comes over here as a foreign key. Now, what I want from you guys now, that we have created a database, right? StudentDB. I want you guys to use that. So you'd be using your terminal, get into that, create these two extra tables. This is already there. The student table is already there. Create a table for the course. Also create another table for registration with these things. And after you're done, you can insert some dummy records if you want. I want similar views like this one. Over here, this entire thing, this is just for students. I want another one for course, another one for the registration itself. The idea is that, let's say as a coordinator, I will have a drop-down list to pick a student, and then I can pick what course this student wants. I'll pick that as well, and then I'll hit the registration button. Then that course will be registered to that student. And I can see a list of courses that this student took, or if I wanted to see how many students are registered for a particular course, maybe I can see that as well. The view is up to you, but I want this whole thing done. Okay, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it is actually going to be a very good exercise for the upcoming lab exam, and also partly for the final exam as well, because we're all just dealing with database related questions in the final exam. Is the task clear? This thing is just for students. Create it as a tab, get another separate tab, make it for course, create another separate tab for registration, and make sure that everything works together nicely. So I'm going to leave it on you guys because the code is already there. You see how this is working, so you should be able to do this. And whatever SQL code you need, we have covered those before. So if you have written down those things somewhere, you should be able to recall those and make some minor changes to them. Then we're on the way. The other thing that I wanted to address right away is what are we going to do about the lab exam? So how the questions will be set, what you can expect, those sort of things. So the lab exam date is not going to be May 9th anymore. We are shifting that to 10th. Thursday, May 10, 2018. How about 10 o'clock? Is that okay for everyone? On paper, I got a lot of students in this lab section, like 28 students or so. So what I'll be doing, I'd have to split it into two halves at least. So yeah, I'll see if I can prepare a list, and I'll divide students like that, or whoever comes in first, I'll let the first 15 students sit over here, and then we'll have another session with similar questions. Okay. So starting, start time is that. The duration of the exam will be 45 minutes. You'll be given some task and you'll get 45 minutes to finish that. Okay, so it also means that it's not going to be too much. Alright, and topics. So in previous semesters, I usually cover some more topics like painting, networking, multi-threading. Since I didn't get to cover any of those, I'm not going to ask a question obviously from anywhere. So this is just going to be these three topics. What you can do is you can pick any two topics. So out of three topics, I'll have a question prepared for all three topics. It would be up to you to declare which two topics you're going to try. So maybe you'd say DB and implementing UML class diagrams, and you'll be given those two questions. And after you read those questions, you can answer any one of those. So if you want to gamble a little bit, you can just prepare for one single topic. Okay. But it may happen that you have a difficult question on that topic, so it would be better to prepare on two fronts, at least two of these topics. So this is a very limited set. If you practice well, it shouldn't be a problem. There are only three topics to study. Pick any two that you feel comfortable in, and then once you get a question for two of those, see which one's easier and then answer that. For the first two is quite obvious, right? The first one has to deal with file input-output with random access file. There will be a graphical user interface component to it, so you need to know JavaFX as well. The second one, it's similar. It's just instead of file IO, we have databases. And for the final one, I'll be giving you UML class diagram and a brief description what I want this to do. And then you have to write Java classes looking at the UML class diagram, whatever description is there. Is this thing clear? So that's that, and you can bring in so textbooks, your copies, or whatever printed material you want to bring, and you're free to do that, but no soft copies. That means that you won't be allowed to use any of the source codes that we tried in class. I mean, you cannot download and use them, or you cannot bring them in pen drive and use them. If you have it all printed and you can look at it and type, I don't mind. At least you learn how to type, right? So that's a good skill. Any question about any of this, about the final exam? The Viva part will be based on so whatever topic you pick, whatever you're answering, I'm going to ask you a question about that. And please understand that this is a lab exam. You really have to show me how things work. This cannot be vague. It's not a theory exam. If you cannot use the IDE, if you cannot write program, no one's going to help you. Okay. So if everything is clear to you guys, let me post this one. And then I'm going to leave this on.